There was a reel that I uploaded a few months back, and it's also a short on my YouTube channel, but it's called Lesbians Date Freely. And like on Instagram, it's called Freely Dating Women. And it's a clip from one of my videos that I did called Why Women, or rather, Why Lesbians Love Women, but not men. I had no idea that there would be these men who took it very personal. And it was not so much the video, it was the actual short or reel that I uploaded on YouTube and Instagram. And there were some men who had comments about this reel, and they really took it personally. And the reason why is I believe they misunderstood my message, and they interpreted it as like an attack on men, or rather women attacking men, but they completely misunderstood it. But once I listened to their complaint or their comments, I said, okay, so these men are really taking this personal. And I was talking about dating women because I'm a lesbian. And I had no thought about a man looking at my reel or my short and putting himself in my position. And what I mean by that is the scenario that I was discussing was I was out of work, and this was some years ago, and I was unemployed. I didn't have any money. I was trying to get on my feet. I wasn't thinking about being in a relationship with a woman at the time. But there was this woman who I met out and about, and we became really good friends. And she asked me out on a date. And I explained to her that I didn't have any money. I was out of work, and I just could not really be in a position to date a woman at this time. And she said that I asked you out on the date. I am going to take care of everything. I will pay for everything on this date. And I don't care that you're not working, that you're unemployed. I want to take you out on a date because I like you. And I agreed to going out with her on this date. We had a wonderful time. And the type of woman I am, when I was able to be in a position to financially support myself and be stable, I made sure that I compensated her. She didn't ask for a dime from me. She even knew when I started working again. She was just happy for me, whether I was broke or whether I was financially stable. She was just a good friend, and we dated each other. And that was the situation I was talking about in my actual video. But these men probably never even saw the video on my YouTube channel, but they took a snippet that I discussed in this short, in this reel, and they became very angry, and they made comments like, all of you women are the same. You just want to use men for your money. You just want to use men for their money. And if we're broke, we can't get a date. If we're broke, we can't get a woman. And why are you women going out with other women and you don't have a job? Why don't y'all have jobs like men? Well, that's not fair. It's a double standard. Why do women get to be with women and they can be broke? And it was going on and on and on. And one of the guys, his comment wasn't as, he didn't take things too personal. It wasn't like a complaint, or it wasn't like they were shooting back at me because they thought that I was throwing shots at them. I wasn't even thinking about dating from a male perspective. I'm thinking about my experience as a lesbian. And these men, that's what I mean by they were putting themselves in my shoes. But you are not able to, as a man, you cannot put yourself in the same shoes as a lesbian, because one, we're two different sexes, and then two, we have different sexual orientations. Now, there was this one man who commented, and his comment was decent, and I did respond to him. And he asked me, he said, could you please tell me why heterosexual women don't date men if they don't make enough money or if they're out of a job? And that was his question. And I responded to him, and I explained to him that the heterosexual relationship dynamic is completely different from a homosexual relationship dynamic. And because I identify as a lesbian, I am in a relationship with a woman, and women, we do not have the same requirements for our partner. Lesbian women or women who love women do not have the same requirements for our female partners in the same way that a heterosexual woman has certain requirements in order for her to date or marry a man. And that's what my response was. And he was like, oh, he said, okay, well, thank you. And that was all with that situation. But I decided to do a video to discuss this because this is a very important topic to discuss, because there's a lot of gender wars that are going on social media, but this is more than just social media. This is real life. These gender wars are going on in real life. There is a dramatic shift in dating, love, and relationships in the heterosexual community. There's a lot of upset men, and there's a lot of emotional upheaval between women and men in the heterosexual community. And we live in a world now where, although being lesbian, gay, or bisexual is more known, and people are able to see more lesbian, gay, or same-sex attracted relationships or partnerships or marriages through social media, and even through film and movies and entertainment. there's still not enough knowledge about same-sex attracted relationships. You can actually go on social media, for example, on YouTube, and you can just find gay couples or lesbian couples, and they have their own channels, for example. You can kind of learn a little bit about lesbian couples or gay couples by doing so. However, I noticed there's this trend, and there was a young man who has a YouTube channel, and he noticed this trend. And his name is Say So TV. He's got some really good content. But he said something that I 100% agree with him. He said he does not like a lot of the gay couple YouTube channels, because he says all they do is a bunch of prank videos, and they have to keep people entertained. So you're not really seeing a real life relationship between a gay couple. And I completely agree with him. I have always felt very bored, or it's not really a boredom. It's more of I wasn't able to really lock in or really get connected, or I would lose interest quickly with some of these lesbian or gay couple channels, because they just didn't feel genuine. And I don't like pranks. I think pranks invites trouble in your relationship. And I just do not agree with pranks. Now, I understand that people may not agree with what I've said, and that's fine. It's just, it's not realistic, and you don't want to invite drama in your relationship just to get views and subscribers, because you may open up a can of worms that you're not able to close back up. And I've unfortunately seen a lot of lesbian gay relationships fail. They break up, and you never hear about them anymore. Or they end up getting their own YouTube channel, but they're not as successful anymore, because the reason why they had success was because they started their platform with the foundation about them being in a lesbian or gay relationship. And they had all of these pranks and these stunts and just a lot of entertainment, but not really focusing on how a relationship functions and how it must be maintained and nurtured to prosper. But that is just one example of how relationships are being, in a sense, dramatized. They're using social media, and the limelight is on their relationship, and a lot of this pressure and this attention and this fandom, because you have subscribers who are tuning into you daily, weekly, monthly, and they want to be entertained. But that's very shallow, because we're not, as human beings, our real lives are not entertainers. We're real people. We have feelings, we have a heart, we have a soul, we have a spirit. We're multidimensional beings. And this is not being represented to the public. If you do put if you choose to put your lesbian or gay relationship, or even your heterosexual relationship, before the public eye, that is a lot of pressure for you to perform. You're performing like you're on a stage, because that's what you are technically doing for these people. And it's bringing in a lot of pressure and a lot of strain on the relationship. And these people are not being real with themselves, and they're not being real with their partners. And I believe this is a big reason why people are struggling in their relationships. And they have this idea that relationships are supposed to always be entertaining. And people have evolved and changed from what their parents and their grandparents were basically exposed to, or just their whole way of life, the culture that they came in. The culture doesn't necessarily mean that you're from another nationality. The culture is a way of living. That's what culture means. So the way of living has changed dramatically over the years. Just if you just think about 10 years ago, the culture was different. 20 years ago, the culture was different. 30 years ago, the culture was different. 40 years ago, the culture was different. 50 years ago, the culture was different. So people didn't always have the internet. People didn't always have social media. This is a rarely new phenomenon. So all of these changes are really deeply impacting and affecting people psychologically. And they're having a meltdown in their relationships, whether they're heterosexual relationships or homosexual relationships. But I will say, especially with heterosexual relationships, because they have been used to this traditional patriarchal heterosexual dynamic, which is between a man and a woman. The man is the sole provider. The wife is the homemaker and the mother of the children, the caretaker, the caregiver, and the white picket fence with the 2-story house, 2 children, and a dog or a cat. That is their ideal relationship type. But that no longer exists. And heterosexual men are discombobulated. They have lost it when it comes to their position in relationships with women. And this roots from patriarchy. Men were given rights and freedom that they did not earn or work for. Just being born into this world as a male was an advantage, but being born into this world as a female was a disadvantage. It is so true when James Brown, the legend James Brown, wrote and sung the song A Man's World. Beautiful song and very true. And men are so upset with the way the relationship dynamic has, in a sense, reversed. Heterosexual men were used to always being the one in charge, being the boss, and being the sole breadwinner. Well, now, as they call women, they call these heterosexual women, quote, modern women, end quote. And these men take issue with modern women. These modern women are educated. They are self-employed. Many of them, if they're not self-employed, they work for Fortune 500 companies, and they're not just regular employees. They are the managers. They are the bosses now. And their relationship dynamic has been turned upside down. So when these men came in my comment section on my social media, whether that was through YouTube, Instagram, wherever I am, and they took issue with my reel, which is less than a minute long, they took it very personal, and they became angry about a lesbian relationship. And they thought that lesbians, I guess, somehow think the same way as heterosexual women, because they were saying that, oh, these women, they want a man to have money. If you don't have a good job, if you don't make six figures, then she don't want you, and you're a broke, busted, and disgusted, worthless piece of a man. And they were going on and on and on. And they said, it's a double standard. Why are lesbians able to be broke? Why can you be without a job and you can still get a woman? I mean, they were angry. And the truth is, lesbians do not think like heterosexual women. And I have video content on my YouTube channel with those titles. And I do not think that men understand that even though heterosexual women and lesbian women, we are both women, we are different from each other. We have different requirements. We have different thought processes when it comes to being in a partnership. For one, a heterosexual woman is attracted to a man. A man is to be a provider for his wife. And men are now angry about having to be providers. But where does this come from? It comes from the fact that women are now in a position to take care of themselves, and they do not need a man to financially provide for them. So now this requires a man to step his game up. And I do not mean just financially. He has to step his mind up, his heart up, his values up, and his responsibility up. These men have not been conditioned to be responsible, strong men, because everything was thrown at them. These men have been spoiled for decades upon decades. They don't really know what it's like to be responsible. They were just given jobs because men at one time, they were the only ones able to work in the household. Or if a woman worked, she had these menial jobs where she was a housekeeper, a maid, or she was what they call a babysitter. It always had to deal with, or she was a cook. It always had to deal with her taking care of children. It always had to deal with her being in the kitchen, cooking and cleaning. Always something that dealt with the woman being submitted to a position of a servant. And the man was always the overpower, the leader, the head. He never learned other skills. He didn't know how to take care of himself. He used women to take care of him. But now women are not tolerating that anymore. And men are losing their minds because they no longer have the control that they once had over women. They're going to have to learn to be men. And until a man learns to be a man, he will not be able to have access to women. Period. It's not just about money. Women who identify as heterosexual are demanding that men be men. And men are taking issue with lesbians because they see that lesbians don't look at a man to take care of them. They're doing their own thing and they're happy in their relationship with another woman. And men are just, it's just blowing their minds. They don't know how to handle any of it. And so that's why I titled my video, Men Who Are Angry About Lesbians Getting Women Without Money. My name is Giselle Wallace. I am a certified life coach and author. And I identify as a lesbian. I understand that providing content on my YouTube channel allows people to be able to learn about people who are different from them. And I will provide content that discusses my lesbian perspective. And I understand that some people will take offense to my content because, for example, if the person is heterosexual and they have never really been around in anyone who is lesbian or gay or of the LGBTQ community, this will be foreign to them. And because they have been in a heterosexual environment all their lives, all they know is their life as heterosexual. So for them to hear me speak about being a lesbian and me having a relationship with a woman, and it goes completely opposite from what they are used to, what they are accustomed to, they will take an issue with it. But instead of always attacking or disagreeing with someone who has a different perspective and a different life from yours, maybe you could take a moment and listen and learn from what is being said. And this will help improve your own life. Now, I don't mean that you take on the life of someone else, but when you become more well-rounded and you learn about other people who come from different cultures and backgrounds and they have different sexual orientations, and even their gender or sex is different from yours, this will help people better in life because we learn more about other people. I am excited to be able to be a life coach and also to provide content here on my YouTube channel because I understand that people who are same-sex attracted, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or LGBTQ+, they want to hear and see content that they can relate to and that they can learn from. Because the world is changing and community is so important. And social media is really a great source to utilize. But you have to, instead of being opposed or negative about content and information that you see or hear on social media or whatever medium outlet, instead of rejecting it and instead of disagreeing with it, just listen and learn. And this will help a lot of the chaos that is going on in the world. I thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Giselle Wallace. Have a wonderful day.